My name is Beverly Walker.
And I am Baron Walker. I met her mother before I met her, and her mother, beautiful woman. I fell in love with her mother before I met her. I used to come over to the house, and I see her mother come home from work, and she come home and straightened up, and she's cooking things, and at the same time, she's getting ready to leave to go to work again. And I was amazed by, the fact that she was working two jobs and raising a family by herself.
Yeah, he was one of the reasons why I stopped my friends from coming over because they all liked my mom. We started talking more seriously when we were 13 and 15, so I probably was 12 and he was 14 at the time that we first started talking and being friends.
And I think I had to do 40 was MR, right? So 15 was consideration for parole. And I'm like, yeah, for me to try to hold on to a relationship would be selfish. 15 years. See, I think she was 20. So that would be, yeah, she'd be 35. Want her to hold on to her life, put everything on hold for 35 years until I come home. I feel like it'd be selfish.
I've always been pretty loyal, so I knew I was in for a long haul. And I actually didn't know what that meant. And I didn't understand the sentence structure at all. I still need him. He still needs me. And I need to be a part of his life. And even if he doesn't know or understand that, I have to make sure that he does because, we went into this together, so we have to figure it all out together. My mother was crazy about Baron. So she was just like, sometimes in life you just got to make sacrifices. So you just really have to decide if this is the sacrifice you're going to make. And if it is, then you just pray to God for strength. And I used to be like, wow, okay, all right. For me, some of the positive things were how I was able to get to know him. So I knew him before he went to prison. And once he was in prison, I was able to see the transformation and the changes that he made. Because I was forced to make changes, and the only way that I felt like we could have a relationship is if he made those changes too. And so I was able to see those changes with his determination and getting into these programs, doing well in these programs, and doing everything the judge told him to do. He taught me, he was able to teach me a lot about DOC and about, the things that were going on in DOC and some of the things that were happening in the prisons. And it it kind of stuck with me and it made me want to know more, and I got involved. He encouraged me to get involved with certain organizations, but I went above and beyond because I felt like, wow, who cares about, these people? So it really helped our relationship because I can relate to him.
I mentally prepared myself to deal with my everyday incarcerated, so I can deal with the incarceration. Being in relationship, uh, it wasn't just me, so I was always concerned about her. Like when holidays come along, it was something I can deal with, but now I'm wondering how she's gonna deal with a Valentine's Day, and her friends are going on dates and dinners and receiving gifts and what have you, and having company, and she doesn't have that intimacy, So that always bothered me. That I might just get to visit, and it's for an hour or 2 hours or what have you, and then she has to leave and go home, you know. So I always felt like that she would be home lonely and hurt and have more crying nights and days because of these situations.
It takes a whole lot of sacrifice, to be in these long relationships. 23 years is a long time, and these sacrifices are real, and you have to deny a part of yourself. Everybody does not have the ability to do that. And so it's not for everybody. Not having him home when I needed him the most. And I was caring for my mother who had dementia. And it was so hard for me to think about not having her anymore. I watched my father die when I was 8 years old, and I just could not imagine for the life of me losing my mother. I didn't have support going through what I was going through. It just seemed like I couldn't do it. And meanwhile, he was praying and asking God to bless him to be home for me when she passed. You know, she did end up passing 2 years ago, and he was home. Just her being able to see him back at home, it just meant so much to me. Weirdly enough, our oldest daughter did date someone that was incarcerated. I didn't like it. Some of the people mean exactly what they say. Some of them will say whatever it takes to get whatever they want. And when their game is really strong, you don't know the difference. So I knew my husband before he was incarcerated, which is the only reason why I was comfortable with that relationship. Had I not known him and had he not changed, we wouldn't be together. But my daughter knew someone before he was incarcerated. You know, they had went to school together, and she felt comfortable, and she felt like, oh, mama, it worked for you. You know, you're so happy. It turned out to be what I hoped it wouldn't be. You know, he was playing games. And so now she is a lovely fiance, but it's a toss for me. In the course of us being together, he had sent me articles and information about how the DOC tries to break apart families. And so I thought, wow, I wonder who wrote this. Wonder if it's legitimate, if this is made up, because you could just write down some stuff and try to make it look real. Until it happened, that because he had to have surgery on his knee. And so she said, oh, which one are you? I said, I'm his wife, and I better be the only one that's calling about my husband. And she was like, because this other girl, I said, ain't no other girl called there. You got us confused. I said, I don't know who you got me confused with, but not my husband. I think he said something to her, but I called her back. And I said, why would you try to put that in my head? And she said, I don't even know. She said, I don't know. She said, but y'all obviously happy and it didn't work, so I wouldn't even let it bother you. And it just, it amazes me at the lengths they don't like to see some of these men that have support and love be happy because they don't have it. We are all going to change, whether we are with a mate that's right here or not right here. You know, are you willing to do what it takes to make this work? And, you know, you have to put in the work in order to get the output of that relationship. It's a part of building. So it's a mental build that'll happen later, but you doing the groundwork. And it may not even happen like that, but the whole fact that you've talked about these things is putting you in the framework of being able to talk about other things once that person is home.